All right, welcome to Pro Football, first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, I'm strictly talking the first 50 years here, 1920 to 1970. I mean, especially if you're going to go back to a game played in like the 20s or the 30s. I mean, you can go online, obviously find the box score, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was, what the attendance was, where the game was played at. You might find starting lineups for each team, but exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, a little newsflash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. And today's game, exhibition game. The New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles at Hershey Park in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Exhibition game, August 15th, 1959. Ooh. Interesting. I'll show you the schedule, especially the exhibition schedule. I mean, these teams were playing all over the place. I mean, they were playing like basically pretty much like everywhere but their home stadium. I mean, it was everywhere. The Giants didn't want to play like this. I mean, they were sharing Yankee Stadium with the Yankees, so the Giants weren't playing at home. They weren't going to go out there and start chewing up Yankee Stadium not with the Yankees playing. Not happening. The Eagles are playing at Franklin Field for their home games. But these two teams here, going into the 59 season, the Giants were like at the top of their game. They had just lost the 58 championship game, a tough loss. The Eagles only won 2 games, right? So they were coming in with hopes, high hopes. Maybe they can start working. And that's exactly what they did. They went from 2 wins to 7 wins in 1959, and then in 1960 they won the whole thing. So they. Them and their coach Buck Shaw, they did it the right way. But this game here was, wasn't played again. It was played in Pennsylvania, home of the Philadelphia Eagles, but it wasn't played at Franklin Field, Hershey Stadium. Let's show you here. I'll start off, with the Giants here. They did all right. They were 3-3 in the preseason. Nothing super spectacular. 3-3. Right? They lost their first 2, then they won 2, then they lost 1, and then they beat the 49ers. Then, of course, during the regular season, they only lost. They were 10-2. They had the best record in the NFL. It didn't help them in the championship game because they lost the championship game, but they did after the 12-game season. They did have the best record overall. The Colts were the second best team at 9-3. But all that mattered was, did you win your division, and what did you do in the championship game? Well, the Giants won the division, but didn't help them in the championship game because they would wind up losing 31-16. As you see down there at the bottom down there. But if you'll notice here, like with the Giants, I'll show you the Eagles in just a second. I mean, Giants play like everywhere. This game here was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was obviously Pennsylvania where the Eagles play, but it was played at Hershey Stadium. Then they played the Colts down the Cotton Bowl, obviously where the Cowboys would start playing the following season. Then the Giants played at Briggs Stadium, home of the Lions. Then they would play the Packers, but they played out in Bangor, Maine. I'll tell you what, if you look at Bangor, Maine, there's like nothing in that area. Although, I mean, a Garland Street Field, I did a video on that one. I believe I remember, I think it was like 12, let's say, was it 12,000? Yeah, 12,000 fans there. So Garland Street Field was not a big stadium, but it was pretty much packed. But, I mean, that was the first ever professional football game played in Maine. And, it wasn't a regular season game, but that Bangor, Maine, the Green Bay Packers and the New York Giants, September 5th, 1959. If you ever get that Trivial Pursuit question, right? Then the Giants played in Chicago against the Bears. Then they played in Salt Lake City, Utah. Final exhibition game against the Rams. I'm sorry, 49ers. I'm looking here. So, but I mean, the Giants did not play. They did not play. I mean, and then the first, what was it, 1, 2, 3 games of the regular season. So Giants played 9 straight games. Not one of them was in New York or Yankee Stadium. Wasn't until they played the Philadelphia Eagles on October 18th. That was their first home game of the 1959 season. But the one nice thing about that is that you can see right here is that they played a home game, then they played an away game, then they played 3 games at home, then they played an away game, which actually was kind of like wasn't really so much an away game. It was, but they played the Cardinals, and it was a home game for the Cardinals. So you got a team from Chicago playing in Bloomington, Minnesota. It was supposed to be a home game for them. So it really wasn't too much of a home game for either team. But then after that, then the Giants played 2 more home games, and then they played against Washington. So, I mean, so the Giants finished up, the tough part of the schedule was early on. If they could get through that, they had a good chance of winning their division. And that's exactly what they did. They went up 3 games ahead. The Cleveland Browns went up 7-5, and the Philadelphia Eagles went up 7-5. So for the Giants, it was a very good season. But if you talk about the Browns, it was slightly disappointing because they had 3 games out of first place. That was disappointing. But for the Eagles to go from 2 wins in 1958 to 7 wins in 1959, it was really a good season. Really, really good season. I mean, look here, look at the Eagles. It was kind of the same thing with them. I mean, they played. Right? I mean, zoom in on the Eagles here. They didn't have a banner exhibition season, and they only won 2 games. But once again, it's exhibition, right? But they played the Giants at Hershey, Pennsylvania. Then they played the Bears in Lynn, I'm going to say Massachusetts, because Maine is M-E, right? Let me see. Bangor, Maine. Is that M-E? Bangor, Maine. Yeah. So this, because I didn't do a video on this game yet. So Lynn, Massachusetts, at the Manning Bowl. All right. That's where the Eagles played the Bears in Lynn, Massachusetts. Then they played the Packers. I did a video on this one in Portland, Oregon. I mean, they took the Packers and the Eagles, sent them all the way across the country. I mean, basically, they took the Eagles literally all the way across the country to play in Portland, Oregon, at the Multnomah Stadium in front of 24,000 people. Then they played the Detroit Lions, but it was in Toledo, Ohio. Then they played the Colts at home. And then they finished up against the Rams out in Memorial Coliseum. But, even the Eagles played all over the place. Now, if you look here, right, the Eagles had a very, very good season. Going into the final 3 weeks, they still had a chance because they only had 3 losses. The Giants had 2. So the Eagles, with 3 games left to go, certainly had a chance. The problem was that the Eagles would get blown out on the road against the Steelers here, giving the Eagles 4 losses. Now, going into the final 2 weeks of the season, the Eagles still had a heartbeat. What had to happen was the Eagles would have to beat the Redskins and the Browns, which they didn't do. And if they could win those 2 games, they would be 8-4. But then they had to hope that the Giants would lose the final 2 games of the season, which didn't happen. So, all in all, I mean, for the Eagles, it was, as I said, you get 2 wins in 58, and you go from 2 to 7 wins. That's a really good season. And not only that, but then they took it to the next level in 1960, and they won the whole thing. So, it was a good time to be an Eagle fan. Prior to the 59 season, I think it was the 4 previous seasons, they had like 3 wins, they were 2 wins, 4 wins. So it was not, they did have a little bit of some few bad years in there, because let's not forget, 47, 48, and 49, they went to the championship, 3 straight championship. And then they were a tough team in the early 50s as well, too. So as you see right here at Hershey Stadium, they had 12,000 people in attendance. There's not much here on Wikipedia and on Hershey Stadium. Not much. There's a few pictures here, but they'll be showing you here. Hershey Stadium, Wikipedia. It's not much. Not much. But tell you what, it's been around for a while. Located in Hershey, Pennsylvania, on the grounds of Hershey Park. It opened on May 18, 1939. It is used as a sporting facility, concert venue, and location for various other large functions, including a birthday gala for President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Wow. As a concert venue, it was played by the Grateful Dead on June 28, 1985, and as it was raining for the whole of the band's performance, Jerry Garcia unusually wore a jacket over his T-shirt all the while he was on stage. Let's see, it also hosts the Tournament of Bands, Atlantic Coast Championship, Marching Band Competition. It's formerly hosted by the Cavalcade of Bands Championship Competition. The Philadelphia Eagles held its preseason training camp at the stadium from 1951 to 1963 and from 1965 to 1967. Let's see. The stadium hosted the final round of the 2000 CONCACAF Men's Pre-Olympic Tournament for the 2000 Summer Olympics. Hershey Park Stadium hosted the fourth annual AHL Outdoor Classic in 2013 with the local Hershey Bears facing the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. We got international soccer was there. You're never going to have Real Madrid play Barcelona there, so that's not happening because if it only holds. I mean, if you see right here the picture of it, I mean, it's very, very nice. I mean, obviously it didn't look like this back in 1959 with the. I'm sure that's probably artificial turf. I'm figuring. But, I mean, you can see by the size of the stadium, I mean, there's no way that, you're going to get a World Cup game in there or something. That's not happening because, you need a stadium that holds a lot of people. This is not that stadium. But you can see it's very well kept up. Very, very well kept up. Let me see here. We got a few pictures here. Nothing too crazy. Share the screen. Philadelphia Eagles at Hershey Park Stadium. All right, here we go. I said not a lot. Now, this is, of course, that's good old John Madden there when he played for, before he tore his knee up playing for the Eagles. But if you'll see here, right? The Philadelphia Eagles at Hershey. And we got, it's got to be a preseason game. Got the Eagles versus the Colts at Hershey. Where are we at here? This was Saturday, August 8th, 1964. It was about May, June, July, 4 months after I was born. You got this one here. You got a little green here. The Eagles versus the Redskins. When was this game? Whoa! Can we zoom that in a little bit better there? Is that going to zoom better? No. How about this one? Is this any better? This is 1965. The Eagles and the Colts. Let's try this one again here. 1945 now. Plays the Eagles and the Redskins played each other. What are we at here? Oh, here we go. This is I don't know what this is. I don't know. I think I saw, if you look here, Hershey Stadium, you see goalposts, right? But I mean, I don't see any lines on the field, so I don't know what's going on here. Could be racing. See how they got a racetrack around the outside of the field? Fans, is that, yeah. Bunch of them over here, but you see all the cars. Look how nicely they're parked. I mean, isn't that very well parked? Very, very well parked. As I said, there's not a ton of pictures here. This is let's It looks like the Eagles there. We got here. Celebrate a big game. Highlight Philadelphia. Many visit the Hershey Park Stadium. I don't know what's going on there. Here we got some Eagles here. Right. Hershey was the summer home for the Philadelphia Eagles for preseason training. Oh, yeah. Nothing like doing some preseason training like middle of July. Huh? All those pads on. My goodness. My goodness. What we got here? Is this... let's see here. Tough to tell because, I mean, a lot of, most of their stuff wasn't happening at Hershey Park. There we go, Hershey Park right here. So you got some racing going on here. Right. You see, you got the goalpost right here. Right. So you got the goalpost there. Gotta go. Whoops. Nope. Not gonna do it. But so you can see the stands. It doesn't hold a lot of people. Here's a far away overview. There's a concert. You can see. Nope. Didn't do that. Concert right here. Oh. Nope. Right here. There's a far away view right here. I mean, right against the parking lot's all out here. You got the football field in there, right? Just the stands. I mean, you can see. I mean, there's not much to it as far as with the stands or anything like that. Here's another view of it here, right? Right, stands here, and I don't know. I guess they play baseball there too. I guess, huh? I don't know what that may. This maybe softball or something. I mean, I can't imagine this being a baseball. I mean, because you see the fence out here. This might be like maybe a softball, some type of softball event. I don't know what this is here. Maybe this is Hershey Park Stadium concerts. There's who's playing. I don't know. It looks like Paul McCartney of all people right there. So, then we got here, right? PIAA championships at Hershey Stadium. I mean, a beautiful field. I mean, I'm not much. I mean, it looks like artificial turf. I'm not an artificial turf guy, but I mean, just it's been around for a long time. The lights, the stadium. As I said, you don't need to have every stadium hold 80,000 people. I mean, this one certainly serves a purpose, and it's in beautiful condition, beautiful shape, right? So, but that's what Eagles, for as you saw, right? For what was it? Whoops. From 51 to 63, and then again from 65 to 67. So the Eagles were there for quite about 15 years or so, 14, 15 seasons. Right? So, but all right, so let's go. And let's get a little pregame action going on here. What's the word on the street here? The first exhibitions game of the season. So let's go to what we got here. What is this? This one. All right, we got interesting. The Patriot News. Okay. The August 15th, 1959 edition of the Patriot News. A little bit of pregame talk here. Here we go. Patriot News. All right, let's start reading. Giants and Eagle squads unveil the 1959 editions at Hershey tonight. The New York Giants will be seeing action tonight at 8 o'clock at Hershey Stadium for the first time since they lost the National Football League title in the first overtime game. The Eastern Division champs will take on the revamped Philadelphia Eagles in one of the first exhibition games of the year. While the Eagles will have a liberal sprinkling of new players, they will be relying on such old stars such as Norm Van Brocklin, who completed more passes than anyone else in the league last year, and Chuck Bednarik, who will open at offensive center. Each will be playing in his 11th season of pro football. Now, it's interesting because the last game, Chuck Bednarik apparently retired after the season. The last game toward the end of it, there was like an article or so in the paper, talking about him retiring. So he was supposed to have retired after the 59 season, but he was around in the 1960 championship season. Giants will have mostly the same old faces, but Frank Gifford, one of the league's best halfbacks, will be attempting to switch to quarterback, which really didn't happen. George Shaw will be backing up Gifford in the quarterback spot for this game, but Charlie Connolly, the regular at that position last year, is also available. Shaw was obtained in an offseason trade. The Giants also have Don Heinrich, too, who they drafted. I think was it this year they drafted him or no? Is it this year? No, it wasn't this year they drafted. Did they draft him this year? No. Let's see. When did he join the Giants? Oh, no, he'd been around for a while. I'm sorry. Well, they got in 1954. He'd been around for a while. The Giants did draft a quarterback, but was it George Shaw or Grosscup? Lee Grosscup. They drafted Lee Grosscup with their number one pick, number 10 overall, with Lee Grosscup. So Giants had themselves some quarterbacks. Didn't have great quarterbacks, but Charlie Connolly. But let's see. The Giants have all of their other stars back, including the two Rosies, who are a thorn in the side of the other clubs. They are Roosevelt Brown, who operated on the offense, and Roosevelt Greer, formerly of Penn State, who does defensive duty. Also back is Alex Webster, the other halfback, and Bob Schnelker and Kyle Rote, and defensive standouts Jim Katkavage, Dick Modulewski, Andy Robustelli, Sam Huff, Cliff Livingston, Harlan Safari, Lyndon Crow, and Jim Patton. Would be Emlyn Tunnell as well, too. However, after the 58 season, Emlyn Tunnell, one of the greatest defensive backs in the history of the NFL, followed Vince Lombardi to Green Bay. The Eagles will present their same backfield as a year ago, with Van Brocklin operating with Clarence Peaks, Tommy McDonald, and Billy Barnes. At the ends will be Pete Retzlaff, who tied for first in the league in pass receiving, and Bobby Walston. And then, of course, don't forget Tommy McDonald as well, too. So, the Eagles, they had a quarterback who could throw the heck out of the ball. And then, as Pete Retzlaff was very, very good, but Tommy McDonald's in the Hall of Fame, for crying out loud. So, the Eagles also have their front defense intact with Ed Meadows, Jess Richardson, Don Owens, and Marion Campbell. And their top linebacker, Bob Pellegrini, is also set to go. The Eagles will be playing without the services of Ed Cook, Colonial Park, who is injured. Cook, a defensive end, was a standout at Maryland. All right. And then we got a little bit of, what we got here? The Daily News, the August 15th, 1959 edition of the Daily News. So let's get the Giants version of the pregame here. What do we got here? All right, here we go. The Daily News, August 15th, 1959. There's Jim Lee Howell, coach of the Giants. All right. Bam. No, this was indeed Coach Howell. These were the Giants. The Flying Wing, it turned out, is the name of the newly conceived Man in Motion series, which the Eastern Division champions are preparing to spring on the opposition this fall. It is hoped it will spread the same consternation around the pro fraternity that the lonely end caused in the college ranks last season. At the moment, Howell told us that confusion is all on our side, but we will still have a lot of confidence that it will click for us. He explained the flying wing is the old stationary wingback Giant fans are used to seeing flanked out wide to the right or the left. Only this year, he is being transformed into a wing who will carry, catch, throw, and play the role of decoy. He's going to be the loose as a goose operative who cuts and capers all over the field. Now, because I forget, because Vince Lombardi was the offensive coach in 1954 to 58. So now that he's gone, now it's 1959. It's a whole new season. Vince Lombardi's not there. Allie Sherman stepped in, who's a very good offensive-minded coach. Not so much a great head coach, but a good offensive-minded coach. Enthusiasm for new offense is flying too. The enthusiasm over the new offensive wrinkle is running high. Our basic series, belly, fullback, up the middle, sweep, pitch out, and crossbuck remain unchanged, Hal said. But we'll work the flying wing into all of them. He will have set plays for each hole and several pass patterns he can run. The idea of the flying wing is the brainchild of Allie Sherman. The old Eagleback quarterback out of Brooklyn College is again a member of the Giant coaching staff after 3 years as head coach with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. 5 backs are used in Canadian football, and that's where the idea germinated. Most of the time, Howell continued, the flying wing won't have the ball, but he'll be cutting toward the middle either as a decoy or as a blocker. In effect, we're going back to the formation in which there were 3 backs behind the center. And it's true. I mean, I remember one of the plays looking in the one of the New York papers. I can't remember if it was the New York Times or the Daily News, exactly which one it was, but there was a play in which the Giants had 3 backs on the field, but 2, Gifford and Phil King were in the backfield. Alex Webster was out wide to the right. So, according to the thinking of Hal and Sherman, something has to be done to open up the defense. The flying wing, they hope, is the answer. Take your middle linebackers, Howell said. They're getting to be big heroes in there smearing the ball carriers. Well, the flying wing is designed to put pressure on them, to keep them guessing. Jim Leal, Giants coach, entertained our boy Ward with full description of the new offense, the flying wing, or Pro Football's answer to the lonesome end. The same goes for all those huge defensive linemen with their great lateral movement and big pursuit. The flying wing will make them stop and think because we can get them going one way and then slip the counterplay with the flying wing. Frank Gifford may well be playing the role of flying wing a good deal of the time. When Giff is quarterbacking, it will be Alex Webster, Don Maynard, or Phil King. Well, Don Maynard's not on the team. Or he didn't, shall I say, he didn't make the team in 1959. He was on the team in 1958. It's a shame. I mean, don't know. I guess they didn't see what they had or whatever with Don Maynard, but they 58 championship game was the final regular season game that he played for the New York Giants. Shame. But let's see. Howell had just finished a heart-to-heart talk with Gifford when he arrived. I told him, Howell said, that I thought he was the best football player in the country. I told him we're going along with him at the quarterback for the time being, but that I wanted him taking his regular turn at halfback because we just couldn't afford to have a player of his stature sitting on the bench. That'd be crazy. It develops Gifford as having more trouble with his plays than the coaching staff thought he would, but he is doing a far smoother job on his drop back and rollout passing from the quarterback slot than was anticipated. Also, he's proving to be a better running quarterback than Howell thought possible at this point in his development. I think that either Gifford or Webster will be able to do a tremendous job for us as a flying wing. Howell said. And don't overlook the wide range of possibilities this freewheeling man in motion opens up in the area of the forward pass. Those linebackers are responsible for area pass protection, too. And we can send the flying wing through the line with the ball or as a potential receiver. Figures it'll give Eagles trouble tonight. Not too much trouble, because the Eagles wind up winning. But he conceded we're improving our technique with the flying wing all the time, and I think we'll give the Eagles some trouble with it Saturday night at Hershey Park. Gifford will start at quarterback. He's been given 3 exhibition games to prove he can handle both that job and his regular halfback assignment. Webster opens at right halfback, King at left halfback, and Mel Triplett up to 228 pounds and looking better than ever, according to Howell, going in the fullback slot. The mainstays in the offensive line, again, will be Ray Waiteka, Roosevelt Brown, Al Berry, Jack Stroud, Frank Uzo, and Mel Guy. But a rookie guard from Minnesota, Mike Foles, and a veteran acquired by trade from the Steelers, Darrell Dess. Don't forget him, Darrell Dess. He had a nice career with the Giants. Have earned their block G in this group. The big 4 of the defensive line, Andy Robustelli, Roosevelt Greer, Dick Modulewski, and Jim Katkavage, are back in action. And if there's any weakness, it is in the pass defense group. Because they, as I said, they lost Emlyn Tunnell, who hadn't been getting up there in years. But, you got somebody with his talent. I mean, it's... All right, so let's go to the... What we got here? Let's go to the August 16th, 1959 edition of the Patriot News. Let's start talking game. All right, here we go. Okay. Gifford gets first test as New York quarterback. Eagles clipped Giants 21-17 before a crowd of 12,199 fans. Here's Clarence Peaks scoring first TD of the season. Here's the line of scrimmage. Here's the ball. Apparently it's a touchdown. Here's Harlan Safari. Here's Sam Huff. Who the heck is that? Yeah, that's not Lyndon Crow. I don't think so. Chuck Bednarik. Here's Andy Robustelli right here. So in this picture, you got at least 3 Hall of Famers right here. Bednarik, Robustelli, and Sam Huff. All right, here we go. An erstwhile defensive back, Walt the Blacksmith Kowalczyk, hammered through the entire New York team to forge a 21-17 victory for the Philadelphia Eagles over the Giants before 12,199 at Hershey Stadium Saturday night. Both teams were playing their first exhibition game of the season on the sultry night, and both cleared their bench in the second half. The Giants used Frank Gifford, their former All-Pro halfback, and 3 others at quarterback, but their offense moved well only under last year's regular Charlie Connolly. The Eagles also used sub-quarterback Sonny Jurgensen. I mean, isn't that a bummer? I mean, the Eagles had Sonny Jurgensen and Norm Van Brocklin on their roster. Let's see. Eagles used subpar quarterback Sonny Jurgensen a great deal, but it was their veteran of 11 pro seasons, Norm Van Brocklin, who was playing when they scored all 3 of their touchdowns. It was Jerry Norton, who was having contract difficulties with the Eagles, who got them started toward the winning score. Norton was unsigned as the game was played, but was permitted to compete anyway. So he was unsigned. Didn't have a contract, but he played. Wow. His showing will be a big talking point when he resumes negotiations with General Manager Vince McNally. The game was running out with the Giants in a 17-14 lead when Norton dropped deep into his own territory and intercepted a pass. And they're the players, a lot of players. This obviously is the first game of the season, right? This is before some of the cutdowns. Let's see here, the Giants. Yep, they Don Maynard. Yep. Didn't make the team, though. Didn't play for the Giants in 1959. So it's hard to believe, I guess, that I don't know. They didn't know what they had. I don't know. But they had Don Maynard, future Hall of Fame wide receiver on the team, and they didn't sign him to the 1959 roster. So Norton dropped back deep into his own territory and intercepted a pass by the fourth of New York's quarterbacks, Don Heinrich. He took the ball on his 20 and raced back to the 43. 4 plays later, Kowalczyk, who earned his nickname with his powerful physique, turned right and cut back in the Giants secondary and reeled off 43 yards for the score. It was the second year in a row that the Eagles had defeated a highly rated foe here. Last year, they downed the Baltimore Colts 30-28. There we go. Tommy McDonald, the ex-All-American from Oklahoma, also had a big hand in the Philadelphia victory. His receiving set up one score, and he counted another. He caught 3 passes for 66 yards. On the defense, Art Powell, the rookie from San Jose State, lived up to expectations with a good game, while Jess Richardson and Don Owens stood out up front. The former Penn State star, Roosevelt Greer. It's like we kind of have like a quarter by quarter action of kind of what's going on here. So Roosevelt Greer looked tremendous in one stand when the Eagles were pinned near their goal line. He stopped 3 plays in a row for a net loss of 1 yard. He was slightly injured in the second half and watched the end of the game from the bench. Gifford looked adequate at both halfback and quarterback. He completed 3 of 6 passes for 42 yards and ran 6 times for 46 yards. All right, so in the first quarter, Pat Summerall kicked a 46-yard field goal at 11:24 of the period, but the Eagles were deep in the Giant territory as the quarter ended. The Giants threatened early as the passing and running of Gifford led the way. Gifford connected on one heave of 29 down the middle to Kyle Rote. The drive fizzled, and Summerall's placement attempt from the 35 was wide. However, the Giants came back as Gifford passed for 17 to Rote, once again down the middle, and then ran 17 more on a draw play. But a 15-yard penalty stalled the Giants, and Summerall kicked his placement long and true to make it 3-0. The Eagles drove back from the kickoff after Tommy McDonald. All right, so let's go to the page 38 of the August 16th, 1959 edition of the Patriot News. So let's stop this here. Go to where we're talking about Tommy McDonald. Tommy McDonald. What's going on with Tommy? Tommy McDonald returned to the 39. Van Brocklin hit McDonald for the 21-yard pass down the middle, and Clarence Peaks, getting a good block from Billy Barnes, ran for 14 just before time ran out with the ball on the New York 28 and the Eagles in possession. The Giants were up 3-0 after the first quarter. There you go. Huff, Harlan Safari. Well, see, they got, I don't know, somehow they think, I guess his last name was Harlan, but his last name's Safari. But anyway, what happened in the second quarter? The Eagles scored early on the second play of the period and late on the next to last play and led the Giants 14-10 at halftime. Tommy McDonald had a big hand in both scores. On the first play of the quarter, he cut down and out from his position on the right flank. Van Brocklin caught him all alone, but the redhead had to fall on his knees to grab the pass from the quarterback. He was on the one and quickly rolled into the end zone. The official called the ball dead on the 1 foot line, and McDonald had to be content with a 28-yard gain. Clarence Peaks dove over right tackle for the touchdown. Bobby Walston kicked the placement to make it 7-3 for the Eagles. The Eagles' top rookie, Art Powell, intercepted a pass shortly after and returned it 17 yards to the 22. But sub-quarterback Sonny Jurgensen could move the team to the touchdown, and Walston's attempt for a field goal was wide from 33 yards. Roosevelt Greer, the former Penn State star, turned in 3 tackles in a row to keep the Eagles in the hole and help the Giants to their touchdown. His defensive play left the Eagles on their own 1, and Jerry Norton punted out only to his 31. George Shaw, the former Baltimore Colt, drove the Giants to the TD, and the score came on a pass he flipped over the line from the 6. Bob Schnelker caught it in the end zone, and Summerall's placement put the Giants in front 10-7. A pass interception by Ed Meadows with 45 seconds left in the half put the Eagles back in business. He took the ball out of the hands of Phil King on the 31 and returned it to the 25. 3 plays later, with the ball on the 13, McDonald cut toward the middle of the field from his position on the right flank. He took a pass from Van Brocklin and then skipped happily into the end zone, making sure the officials couldn't take this one away from him. Walston's placement kick was good. Eagles went in with a 14-10 halftime lead. The All-Pro quarterback of the Giants, Charlie Connolly, came off the bench to direct the New Yorkers to their only score of the period, which was shoddily and listily played, as that he needed the help of a third down penalty to do the job. After 2 early period interception and a fumble recovery, the Giants got control of the ball on their own 35 after a punt. 3 running plays handled by Connolly gave the Giants 1 first down, but when a third down pass from Connolly to Gifford, now playing halfback, failed, and it looked like the drive had ended. However, interference was called, and the Giants had a first down on the Eagle 40. Mixing age with youth, Connolly threw to rookies Joe Biscaha and Gail Gibson for a total of 24 yards. The Giants moved down to the 14. Then Connolly sucked in the defense by faking a pass and handed off to fullback Mel Triplett on a draw play. Triplett had a big hole at left guard, and he barged the whole way into the end zone. Giants were up 17-14. Fourth quarter. The Eagles threatened only once, but made that one pay off for the touchdown and the victory, 21-17. Jerry Norton started the winning surge when he intercepted a pass on his own 20 and raced back 27 yards to the 47. Van Brocklin sent rookie Joe Pagli into the line twice, and then flipped a short pass to the same player for a first down on the New York 43. On the next play, Van Brocklin handed off to Walt Kowalczyk, who is usually used on the defense, as he moved from his left to his right. It looked as if Kowalczyk was trapped as he ran around right end, but he kept moving laterally until he found daylight. Once past the line of scrimmage, the blacksmith cut back to his left. Both defensive safety men got a shot at him, but he shook off the second of them, Dick Lynch, who's a good player, at the 30 and was in the clear. He scored on a 43-yard run with only 4 minutes remaining. The Eagles stopped the Giants and then ran out the clock for the win. Final score, Eagles 21, Giants 17. So here's Sonny Jurgensen, Eagles quarterback, picks up 11 yards before being hauled down by Dick Lynch, who makes a vain attempt to try and pilfer the ball away from Jurgensen in last night's NFL exhibition game at Hershey. Coming to Lynch's aid is Big Sam Huff, also shown as Harlan Safari, Giants end. All right. So now let's go to the August 16th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Ooh, what do they got to say? Now, I was looking in the, because this game was played One of the problems in the games that played like on a Saturday, sometimes it's not coverage on Sunday. Some papers just don't back down, for whatever reason, didn't have papers on Sunday. And this was the first exhibition game of the season. Baseball was still in full swing, full swing. And so a lot of the New York papers didn't really have much coverage on this as the game was played in Hershey, Pennsylvania. It was an exhibition game. It doesn't count. Didn't matter. It was late at night. It was on a Saturday night, and so as I said, some of the papers didn't have any coverage at all on a Sunday. So there wasn't much that I found. Good quality stuff, shall I say, from the New York paper. So a lot of the stuff is from the Philadelphia paper. So as I said, let's go to the Philadelphia Inquirer. All right. Philadelphia Inquirer, August 16th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Walt Kowalczyk runs 43 yards for a TD. Eagles win 21-17. Buck Shaw's summer of discontent took a sharp turn for the better in the brief seconds it took Walt Kowalczyk to run 43 yards Saturday night. The former Michigan State All-American's fourth quarter dash gave the Eagles a 21-17 upset over the Giants, the National League's defending Eastern champions, before 12,199 onlookers in Hershey Stadium's unconditioned air. I'm sure it was hot. The victory over the football's best defensive team came as a happy surprise to Shaw, who approached the game with a minimum of optimism. One triumph over a team that began the game by experimenting with a halfback at quarterback doesn't make a season, of course. So the Eagles fans will wait a while before deciding if things are as bad as Shaw has been painting them, or if he has only been talking like a coach. Time will prove if the Birds truly are talented. Their first exhibition proved they have spirit and quantity. They had to come from behind 3 times to win. Clarence Peaks, another sophomore who stood out with Kowalczyk on a night designed to test rookies, brought Shaw's group back the first time. He bulldozed a yard at the end of a 67-yard push that wiped out a 3-0 advantage the Giants gained on Pat Summerall's awesome 46-yard field goal. Giants went ahead 10-7 on a 6-yard pass from George Shaw, the malcontent from Baltimore, to right end Bob Schnelker in the second quarter. But the Eagles rebounded on Norm Van Brocklin's 17-yard connection with Tommy McDonald later in the period. In the third quarter, Mel Triplett raced 14 yards for a 17-14 Giants lead, but Kowalczyk had the final answer. In a football sense, his run, which started as a turn of right end and continued as a cutback through the congested traffic through the Giants' vaunted secondary defense and wound up near the far corner of the end zone, was the 80-degree night's climax. For sheer amusement, though, it took second place to a run on the ensuing kickoff. A teenage boy spectator made it. He took Dick Bielski's kickoff beyond the end line, where a welter of kids were gathered, and ran the length of the field. As he approached the far end zone, urged on by thunderous cheers, a policeman carrying a long nightstick moved to intercept him. The kid neatly sidestepped the keeper of public safety, turned safety man, and threw the ball into the crowd at the same time. Oh, man, I love it. The Eagles also had kids who stood out. On defense, John Norsera, cornerman, who starred on January's Iowa Rose Bowl team, and Art Powell, halfback kid brother of former 49er Charlie Powell, were eye catchers. On offense, it was ex-Clemson halfback Joe Pagli, who littered, although he made only 16 yards on 4 carries and caught 1 pass for 5. But it was a night in which, all right, so let's go to another one here. with the Philadelphia Inquirer. Same thing here, August 16th, 1959 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer. But it was a night which which the Eagles were outrushed and outpassed. Of course, no passer outshone Van Brocklin, whose rubber arm seemed staunch for his 11th year. Dutch made 106 yards by completing half of his 18 passes. The Giants used 4 pitchers, including ace halfback Frank Gifford, who coaxed Jim Lee Howell into letting him starting at quarterback. This experiment was abandoned, at least for the night, by the second quarter. Shaw and vets Charlie Connolly and Don Heinrich followed Gifford, who put in a great deal of time at halfback from there on. So the Giants had a bunch. I mean, they drafted Lee Gross Cup. They had George Shaw, they had Charlie Connolly, they had Don Heinrich, and they had Frank Gifford. So they had a lot of guys, a lot of quarterbacks. So for the Giants, none of these throwers had the final rebuttal for the Eagles, especially the Van Brocklin to Tommy McDonald combination. I mean, that was a special combination. I mean, Van Brocklin, a Hall of Fame quarterback, throwing to Tommy McDonald, Hall of Fame, and wide receiver, whatever you want to call him. I mean, just special. 2 special players. Clicks by this duo of 21 and 28 yards set up the Eagles' first touchdown. The 17-yarder, on which McDonald wrested away from Jim Patton on the 2 and stepped over, accounted for the second 6-pointer. Pagli took over McDonald's role on the final drive, which began with Jerry Norton's 14-yard return of an intercepted Don Heinrich pass. Van fired 7 and 13 to Pag to set the stage for Kowalczyk's clincher. And there's the ends. There's for the Eagles. There's for the Giants. And we got some stats here. Giants had 19 first down. The Eagles barely had 200 yards of offense. Giants had 162 yards rushing, 108 yards passing. I mean, Giants were only 10 of 26 passing. I mean, passes intercepted by the Eagles, picked off 4 passes. The Giants picked. So there was 7 interceptions in the game. I mean, and 1 fumbled lost. So there was 8 turnovers in the game. It's yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Exhibition game. The Giants had 4 guys in there, quarterback. I mean, it was not a unbelievably well-played game. But it is what it is. All right, so we got a little bit more here, a little bit more to read. Share screen. All right, so here we got find it. Okay, here we go. Now here's the Sunday Bulletin. All right, let's see here. Got a picture of Frank Gifford. I guess this is when he was played halfback, I guess. Frank Gifford, who took over as the Giants starting quarterback last night, raced around and for first down before being brought down by the Eagles' Tom Brookshire, right, who grabs him by the feet, and Bob Pellegrini with arms outstretched. Action was in the second period of the exhibition game at Hershey. I guess this action was in the second period. So it was in the second period. Gifford would be playing halfback then because he played quarterback for the first quarter, it said. So if this action was in the second period, Gifford was probably playing his normal position. Okay. A twisting 43-yard run by Walt Kowalczyk late in the fourth period enabled the rookie-loaded Eagles to beat the New York Giants 21-17 before 12,199 sweltering onlookers at Hershey Stadium tonight. Both the Eastern Conference tail-enders and the division champions, meaning tail-enders, meaning that the year before the Eagles were in last place and the Giants were in first place, played loose ball in the opening exhibition game for both. Very loose. But the young Eagles had the greater determination, putting up a brilliant defense against the passing of four giant quarterbacks, including the redoubtable Frank Gifford, the converted Hollywood halfback. This was a thorough test for the Eagles. 45 of the 47 men available saw action, and quite a few turned in notable performances, especially rookie Art Powell, a defensive halfback, John Nocera, a cornerback linebacker, and fullback Joe Pags. I'm just going to call him the Pags. McDonald stands out. Veterans who stood out in the high humidity includes Norm Van Brocklin and Tommy McDonald, plus defensive stalwarts Don Owens, Jess Richardson, Marion Campbell, Ed Meadows, Tom Brookshire, and Jerry Norton. The Eagles scored twice in the second period on a brilliant pass catch by McDonald and a lunge by Clarence Peaks. Giants points accrued from a field goal by Pat Summerall in the first period and touchdown by Bob Schnelker and Mel Triplett in the second and third quarters, respectively. Gifford, who started the game, was both running and passing star for the Giants. The California Glamour Boy ran 46 yards from scrimmage and had a 50% passing average with 3 completions in 6 attempts. Van Brocklin also hit the 500 mark with 9 out of 18 aerial clicks, good for 96 yards and a touchdown. The Dutchman's top receiver was McDonald with 3 catches, good for 66 yards. The Giants bobbed into the lead late in the first period when Summerall booted a 3-pointer from the 46. Gifford set it up with a 17-yard pass to Kyle Rote and an 18-yard run. The second period had just started when the Eagles smashed back into contention. Rapidly, they moved 67 yards through the Giants' defense, one of the league's best. Van Brocklin fired 21 yards to McDonald. Peaks skirted end for 14. Tommy grabbed another pass while falling on the 1, and Peaks cracked over, and Bobby Walston, Bobby Walston, bam. Gotta find it. Cheers up, my bad. Bobby Walston kicked the point to give the Birds a 7-3 bulge. A long punt by the Giants' Don Chandler rolled out on the 3 midway through the second period and put the Eagles in a hole which they couldn't recover. The Giants took Norton's punt on the 32 and with Georgie Shaw quarterbacking drove to a 6-pointer. The clincher was a 6-yard throw to Schnelker. Summerall kicked the point, and the Giants were ahead 10-7. But the young Eagles were determined. Nocera hit fullback Phil King so hard he fumbled a Shaw pass. Phil King did a very good job at fumbling the ball. He fumbled the ball quite a bit in his career with the Giants. Meadows grabbed it and bowled to the Giants' 26. Van Brocklin hit Pete Retzlaff for a 9 and then found McDonald running in high gear over the goal. Walston again converted, and as the half ended, it was the Eagles 14, Giants 10. By the second half, the heat was taking its toll. Both teams substituted freely, with the Giants using 2 more quarterbacks, the veteran Charlie Connolly and Don Heinrich. Connolly's effective pitching plus a 17-yard interference penalty against the Eagles put the Giants in scoring position. The payoff was fullback Mel Triplett's 14-yard dash to left tackle. Summerall's conversion made it Giants 17, Eagles 14. In the final minutes, though, Norton plucked off a Heinrich pass on his 30 and dashed to the Giants' territory. A few plays later, Kowalczyk, the former Michigan State All-American, took a pitch out from Van Brocklin, zigzagged the entire 43 yards with eager Giants clutching vainly at his pants. The game ended with the Eagles again battering into the Giant territory on some hard running by rookie halfback Theron Sapp. Once again, you can see a lot of players. A lot of players. And the Giants, that's his Don Maynard right here. He played at halfback for the Giants. I mean, just it's it winds up being a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Of course, he did have Joe Namath for the most part throwing him to the football, but I mean, they didn't make the Giants team, and they had him in there at halfback. Just didn't know what they had. All right, and this is from the New York Times. This is like the best article I could find for the Giants. The New York coverage of the Giants game. All right, Eagles beat football Giants on Kowalczyk's touchdown in the last quarter. Long run decides a 21-17 contest. Kowalczyk goes 43 yards, Gifford and three others at quarterback for the Giants. New York Giants, experimenting with four quarterbacks, lost their first preseason exhibition game tonight to the Philadelphia Eagles, who used only two signal callers. The Eagles rallied with a last period touchdown and won 21-17. A sweltering crowd of 12,199 watched the National Football League rivals in Hershey Stadium. As expected, coach Jim Lee Howell used Frank Gifford, George Shaw, Charlie Connolly, and Don Heinrich at quarterback for the Giants. Norm Van Brocklin did most of the work at that spot for the Eagles, with relief from Sonny Jurgensen. Van Brocklin outplayed the four Giant quarterbacks. Gifford, who was getting his big chance to earn the quarterback job, started for New York. On the first series of plays, he sent the Giants on a 52-yard march. He looked strong, passing well and keeping for good runs when unable to spot receivers. Shaw passes for a score. This drive bogged down, however, and Pat Summerall put the Giants into a 3-0 lead with a 46-yard field goal in the first period. Shaw, the former Baltimore Colt, was under center for the first Giants touchdown on his 6-yard pass to Bob Schnelker that gave the Giants a 10-7 lead in the second period. The Eagles had scored when Clarence Peaks plunged from the 1 at the start of the second period. Just before the second quarter ended, Van Brocklin hit Tom McDonald for a 15-yard scoring pass. The Eagles had a 14-10 lead at intermission. Giants scored in the third period when Mel Triplett ran 14 yards for a touchdown. The Eagles won the game on a Walt Kowalczyk 43-yard run at the 10:48 mark of the fourth quarter. With all of the candidates the Giants have for quarterback, the old man in the group and the tested pro, the 38-year-old Connolly, proved most efficient and decisive in the short time he played. He went in at the halfway mark of the third period and engineered only 11 plays. In that stretch, he moved the Giants 65 yards to score. Mel Triplett went over from the 14 on a draw play. Connolly was accurate, steady, and just his old self. When he didn't play quarterback, Gifford was at the left halfback, his old spot most of the time. He was there in the second period when Shaw made his first appearance as a Giant. Shaw also moved immediately to a score. But Van Brocklin was better than all the Giants quarterbacks, and he got better protection from his line. Behind Van Brocklin was good running backs by Peaks, McDonald, two rookies, Joe Pags out of Clemson and Theron Sapp of Georgia. Giants' backfield often was in a state of flux. Gifford played at quarterback and halfback. Phil King and Don Chandler were at Gifford's old spot at left halfback. Don Maynard, used primarily on punt returns last season, also worked at halfback. Roosevelt Greer and the other experienced defensemen were up to par for the Giants. Greer's one-man effort near the Eagles' goal line in the second period was largely responsible for the Giants' first touchdown. He tackled runners 3 times in their efforts to move past the 2-yard line. Then the Giants took over following a short punt, and Greer's work paid off. This touchdown that followed came with Shaw at quarterback. Jim Patton, a 4-year defensive back, intercepted 2 Eagle passes. And once again, you can just see, all the players that played for the Giants and the Eagles, and the referees, the score. That was There wasn't, as I said, there was not a lot of wonderful coverage of this game, from the New York side. But thankfully, the Eagles, in Philadelphia, obviously, because the game was played at Hershey Park, Pennsylvania, the Eagles and the Philadelphia or Pennsylvania papers had some decent coverage on this game. But once again, it was an exhibition game. I mean, you got Giants had 4 quarterbacks in there. They had their best quarterback in there at the third quarter. I mean, unlike today, when you got your you got your starters. The guys are going to start the season for you. They're playing the first quarter. You don't put the backups in at the first and second quarter. Then you put your star in at the third quarter. It was a lot different back then. I mean, the Giants put 4 quarterbacks in. The Eagles only played 2. And actually, I said the Giants drafted Lee Gross Cup too. So the Giants actually had like 5 quarterbacks on their roster. Obviously, by the time the season started, they had to dwindle it down. But the Giants had a ton of quarterbacks on the roster. I said, and they even had Don Maynard in there, who's, as I said, one that was a Hall of Famer at wide receiver, and they had him in the backfield. Sometimes you just don't know what you got. So that's the way it was on this date, August 15th, 1959, as the New York Giants took on the Philadelphia Eagles at Hershey, Pennsylvania, at Hershey Stadium. In pro football, first 50 years. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.